Undefeated streak, something that any fan of any sport can appreciate. From baseball to boxing to basketball, whatever your flavor, it doesn't matter. Go to pickleball, whatever the hell that is, I don't really understand how that works. Go to cricket. Well, that's not cricket. Cricket Wireless is not sponsoring this video, so I'm not going to say the slogan. The whole point is undefeated streaks can absolutely enthrall fans. Sometimes they can go on for seasons and seasons to the point that you just wonder, how in the goddamn world is anybody going to beat this team? Who's going to stop them? Nothing's going to stop us now. But when it comes to professional wrestling, well, undefeated streaks have been monkeyed with, toyed with, tweaked with, like they're tweaking some very, very luscious, well, spikes on the end. What the hell did you think I was going to goddamn say? Like little Hershey kisses that you just want the tips on. The whole point is undefeated streaks from the pioneer, circus, carnival days, all the way to the modern era. The one thing is, a good to great undefeated streak can make somebody absolutely enthralling, captivating, and the talent that you want to see. And if they're a face, you want to see them continue to demolish, to destroy, to emerge victorious over anybody. And if they're a heel, you want to see who's going to take them down. But when it comes to an undefeated streak, the main thing is you have to have, obviously, a great talent to start with, but then you have to figure out who's going to ultimately benefit by beating this person, face or heel. Who's going to get the rub? Who's going to rub one out and win something big by ending this massive undefeated streak? What's this intro on about? I have no goddamn idea, but I'm here to talk about one particular person, Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg. If you want to talk undefeated streaks, you got to start with Bill Goldberg. That's what I'm going to do. I'm John Redland with my real honest thoughts on wrestling's undefeated streaks, who benefited, episode 1. So yeah, it's on Bill Goldberg. This is a mini-series I'm just going to do a few episodes on. If there are other ones that are detailed enough, I will continue this, but I'm just going to record a block of them. The ones that I'm going to end up doing after this are Asuka, as well as Hulk Hogan in WCW, because he had an undefeated streak for a while, and then, well, we'll talk about that, and Undertaker at WrestleMania. There are other ones, such as Jade Cargill in AEW, even though no one really benefited because they didn't know what they were doing. As well as Tatanka and Mr. Perfect, but the thing is, undefeated streaks, pretty much when it comes to undefeated streaks, especially in the modern era, you gotta go with Bill Goldberg. And Bill Goldberg truly was one of the icons when it came to the latter era of WCW. Because Bill Goldberg had the intense look, Bill Goldberg had the intense physical charisma, and Bill Goldberg would demolish and hurt people because Bill Goldberg just liked to do that. Not that I'm wearing the shirt of anybody that he hurt and ended the career of inadvertently, but that's what Bill Goldberg did. But Bill Goldberg also drew a tremendous amount of money, sold a lot of merch, boosted the ratings. He just came on a little bit too late because WCW, by the time they ended the streak, was really starting to spiral out of control. But I'm not going to go into granular detail over every single TV house show win. I will say there is actually a pretty good, I think it's like a 52-minute playlist of Goldberg's wins on, WCW televised programs, which is actually pretty goddamn good. You realize just how many repeat performances he had. But Bill Goldberg certainly, and yes, Goldberg, I know, but Bill Goldberg, sorry, I can't, not say it like Bret Hart does. But he actually trained at the power plant, as we all know. They did a great thing. I think it was WWE Untold about the streak, and actually was a pretty good thing. You rewatch it. I stand by the fact that Bill Goldberg truly was somebody that helped WCW a lot, but also he never seemed to get it when he got to WWE. He just never seemed to get it, and I don't think Vince really got him either, and I also think that Triple H didn't particularly appreciate him, but also he needed to have it be short and sweet. He did not need to go out there and have 15-minute matches like he did against The Rock in 2003 at Backlash, and that wasn't very good. But we're going to go back to the fact he trained at the power plant, he got knocked out of football due to injuries, and bless him, he made a fuck ton of money in WCW. I was going to say a lot of money, but it actually is a fuck ton of money. He wrestled a couple dark matches. He actually lost a dark match. So technically, this streak, throw it out. That's it. We can't talk about this anymore. End the video. No, in all seriousness, dark matches don't really count. His first win was against Hugh Morris, a.k.a. Bill DeMott, on the same Nitro that went head-to-head with the Madison Square Garden debut of Cactus Jack and also Austin Stunning Vince. And that was a big goddamn deal. Now, having never seen Bill Goldberg, he just came out, black trunks, bald head. Gee, I wonder who they were trying to channel. Oh, I get it. I get it. I got it. I got what you're doing. It's EWCW. It's about as subtle as an elephant on stilts. But he did end up beating Bill DeMott, showing impressive power. Did a nice backflip, did a big power slam, kicked out of no laughing matter. would eventually hit the jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Go, that's number 1. And yes, he would wrestle on TV, and he would have impressive matches against, or impressive squashes against Glacier and various others. And Al Green, no, not that one. And Ron, was it Ron Fuller? No, it wasn't Ron Fuller. It was some. He faced off against like one really big hairy guy that like had the last name of Fuller, and he was pretty damn impressive. He wasn't a Fall Brawl 97 because that happened just before this whole thing. Halloween Havoc, he would end up helping Alex Wright defeat Mongo McMichael in an absolutely gut-bustingly hilarious run-in, where the referee, Charles Robinson, I believe, was distracted for about 8 million years by Deborah, probably trying to teach her how to just add 2 and 2 together. I'm sorry. Except I'm not. And then World War III came and went. Mongo would end up actually getting some revenge on Bill Goldberg in the lead up to this, because Deborah would end up giving Bill Goldberg his Mongo's Super Bowl ring that he won as part of the Chicago Bears, and rest in peace Mongo, obviously. Somebody that was certainly an interesting character that really tried his best in WCW. And he would end up beating Mongo at Starrcade 97 in a match that, let's just say Starrcade 97 was snake bit, like pretty much from the beginning, and it was what it was. I believe Mongo went through a table that wasn't really, it didn't seem like a very much of a gimmick table. Not like the New Japan ones, but still. And then he wouldn't be at every single pay-per-view, but he was at Super Raw 98. He defeated one of the Armstrongs, I believe Brad. And then he faced off against Saturn at a couple pay-per-views as they were building him up. They were starting to keep track of the streak. Mike Tenay in particular was keeping track of the streak. And at first they were treating it as legitimate. He would wrestle on a house show or two. He would wrestle on Nitro. Sometimes he'd wrestle on Thunder. And then, Worldwide or Pro, their syndicated programs. WCW Saturday Night. So he was getting victories. And the thing is that it was in the infancy, the growth of the internet. So people were keeping track of this. And for a while, they were treating it as legitimate. Realistically, it's not 173-0. I think it's more like 143-0. But that, maybe 150-0. But they fudged a few too many of the numbers where fans were starting to think that it was a little fucking ridiculous. But he did face off against Saturn at Spring Stampede 98 and at Slamboree 98. And actually, right after Spring Stampede 98, Raven had won the U.S. Championship and then lost it to Bill Goldberg in a massive run-in filled event where Bill Goldberg picked up Reese, yes, the former Yeti, in a very impressive jackhammer. Just did that. He had the look. He was an intimidating son of a bitch. I don't like how reckless he was, because he was. It's just from a fan's perspective, but it was really impressive to watch. And then he faced off against Saturn in another match at Slamboree 98 that was pretty good. Like, you could get more out of him if you played to his strengths, if you bounced around like a Super Bowl. And if you just were able to convince him, don't worry, you can sell and you can come back just after a little bit. You show a little weakness as things go on, as you face people that are better than the people you faced previously, and it'll work out. So, yes, he beat Raven on the Nitro right after Spring Stampede. Beat Saturn right there. Bill Goldberg rolls on to beat Hulk Hogan at the in the Georgia Dome Nitro, where they won, I think, ratings victory for the first time in 11 weeks, and it was a big deal. Of course, they advertised the title match, I think, 3 days prior. Imagine if they had actually put it on, fucking pay-per-view, but they couldn't put it on Bash at the Beach 98, because that was going to be Hogan and Rodman against DDP and Karl Malone. But you still could have saved the damn thing, or You could have definitely done something. Well, I mean, Road Wild probably wouldn't have been the best place to put that because I don't know if the Sturgis, which really just sounds like a regurgitating noise that you make, where you just Sturgis. But anyway, he wrestled Kurt Hennig at Bash at the Beach 98. That was a big goddamn deal because I think he was 107-0. He had beaten Scott Hall to defend the U.S. Championship successfully previously in that show, and that's when that Nitro, or Nitro in general, I think for 98 and I don't think 97, 98, 99, they were 3 hours, which was ridiculous. Like in 97, don't get me wrong, a 2-hour show where were left wanting more, that's fine. 3 hours, they were allowed to go out there and cut promos forever. They were allowed to go out and they would have to have 9 or 10 matches just to fill the damn thing. Now, if Triple H was booking goddamn Nitro, they would have 5 matches. They would have some promos go on for like 30 fucking minutes. Nevertheless, he faces up against Kurt Hennig, who was dealing with knee and back issues at that point, and other issues, because he was very, very bulky at that point. I hate to say it, but I think we all know what that means. But he did beat him pretty soundly, convincingly, and that was his first title defense on pay-per-view. Now, think about it. He won it on that Nitro, and he would defend it on television and stuff like that, but he wouldn't make as many appearances at pay-per-views as you would think. Because then he was part of the Team NWO, Team Wolfpack Battle Royal thing, where he would end up winning that as at Road Wild 98. Way to make your factions look tremendously strong by having one man beat them. Granted, that man was Bill Goldberg, but still. And then he was not at Fall Brawl, but they did the Jericho thing where Jericho brought out the mini Goldberg and stuff like that and built that feud that went absolutely nowhere because Bill Goldberg didn't want to work with Jericho. And then he had arguably his best match, and in my opinion, where the streak should have ended. If you were going to end the fucking streak, you should have ended it here. DDP got the most out of him. When he hit that diamond cutter, that's it. You end it there, people will appreciate it. They didn't do that. And he would, in the interim, he would face off against like the Giant and do a tremendous jackhammer to him, which the Giant was massive at that point, and not massive in a good way. He was very out of shape. But good God, it was impressive. He would face off against Sting in television matches. He would do good stuff. He would have matches where he was getting tremendous reactions. Even if the matches were just about the same, since he was a world champion, undefeated, he's mauling through people. Yeah, you got to put in some time. That's what DDP did. And then World War III, Kevin Nash wins. And then they build up this whole thing where Nash wasn't the booker, by the way, but I believe Nash had some creative input. But also, Kevin Sullivan didn't want Bill Goldberg to get beat because he knew if Bill Goldberg got beat, that was about it. There was no way that it's not that they weren't going to be able to come back from it, because eventually you do have to lose, but it was the way they were going to build him back up after that. Faces off against Kevin Nash. Yes, Kevin Nash got a big reaction when he finally beat Bill Goldberg. Shock stick and all that. Zap with a taser, good idea? Not a good idea. Terrible, garbage, as Punk said. When something gets hot in this industry, you run with it, you don't zap with a taser. So, essentially what ends up happening is after the streak is ended, we do a little build to Nash and Hogan in the Georgia Dome. The night that Mick Foley won the world title on a taped Nitro. They did this thing where Bill Goldberg was accused of stalking Miss Elizabeth. That didn't work. I did rewatch that whole episode, and if he had beaten Nash right there, just beaten him, that would have been fine. Or if he had been taken out, like if he had just been taken out instead of doing a stupid stalking angle thing, yeah, the crowd might have revolted. But then maybe if you hadn't done the fucking finger poke of doom, all that. But that's a whole nother story for another day. Let's say he had continued the streak. Let's say he'd beaten Nash. And then let's say they formed NWO, stuff like that. Let's say they formed a new NWO, NWO Elite. And they had done that by beating down Bill Goldberg in the Georgia Dome. And not done the finger poke of doom. You build it up where you have a heel faction. And maybe Hogan gets the victory, at Uncensored 99 through a bunch of shenanigans and everything. And then you build up to, like, say, I don't know, Bash at the Beach, where Hogan loses a title back and Goldberg has another run for a little bit. Something like that. The point is DDP would have benefited from beating the streak. Nash didn't benefit from beating a streak. And I'm not even saying whether Nash wanted to necessarily do it or not. I don't know. I don't really care. Nash kind of pissed me off with his support of Vince. And a few things that he said, even though he is right about a lot of things, he wasn't right about that stuff. But Kevin Nash still is one of the coolest heels that has ever existed. And always got great reactions because he just had that cool factor about him. Big Daddy Cool, all that. He did not benefit from beating Bill Goldberg, and nobody really would have benefited except for DDP, because by that point, by the time DDP won the title at Spring Stampede 99, even though that was only about 6 months, too little, too late. That's just what it was. It was too little, too fucking late. Because they need to capitalize on something when it's white hot. And yes, Goldberg was white hot. You could have had it where DDP won it there, and then Bill Goldberg beat him at Starrcade, and then went on another run into the summer, and then lost it. And maybe you have Nash beat him there, because they tossed the title around like a guy, like Sonny in the locker room at that point. It just was very, very, narrow-casted and short-sighted, because they had something. They killed the Golden Goose, which was a Bobby Heenan line. And who benefited from ending the streak? Ultimately, nobody. The streak was seen as an afterthought, and yes, he would then go on to earn victories and get pretty much a winning streak back and stuff like that, but it was never the same. He would still get big reactions. But check out the reactions he was getting by the fall of 99. People were getting sick of Goldberg. There was no evolution to the character. Outside like a few tweaks and him trying to have longer matches. And then the aforementioned stuff with Brett, I've done videos about that. The thing is ultimately nobody benefited from breaking Bill Goldberg's streak. I'm not saying he should have gone on the undefeated streak until WCW ended. Because WCW was going to end in 2001, whether they were making record profits or not. Because they made record profits in 98. Then they were starting to lose money in 99 because of all the big contracts and all the other stuff that they were doing. So they were already heading for the iceberg, shall we say. Now, if they had somehow managed to keep the profits rolling like they did in 98, and everybody was just doing so great, even if WCW was a number 2 and had never won a ratings victory again, I still say that they would have had their television deal pulled. Because the people in charge did not want anything to do with it. Jamie Kellner, who I believe died recently, and good. Hope he fucking suffered for pulling, great wrestling from television, even if WCW in its dying days was not that great. But Bill Goldberg could have automatically given somebody such a boost if they had not fudged with the streak. Maybe had to go to a legit 200-0, and then somebody beats him. If you're not going to have DDP beat him there at Halloween Havoc, build it up to 200-0. Yeah, you're starting to get some Goldberg sucks chance, but get it to where it's a nice even number. He wins or he loses, and then do something the next television. Write him off if you want to. I'm just creating these scenarios just out of thin air. Do something to make sure that you ultimately, can, make a new star out of it. Hell, that Booker T fucking beat him. It would have been at least a year sooner, and it would have made it a lot more sense. I'm just blue skying this stuff here. I am on blue sky, by the way. That being said, do you think anybody benefited from beating Bill Goldberg's streak? Do you think anybody would have? Do you think Nash did? I don't. DDP, I think he would have. Anybody else? Not really. Is there somebody that they did not have Bill Goldberg face that would have benefited from beating him? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlin, and until we meet again, happy trails to you.